Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm TK Sheffield, guest hosting this episode because today we are switching it up and talking with your usual co-host, Ken Humphrey, about his book, The Breakfast Jury.
Ooh, we're so lucky we get to show off Ken today. We're very excited about, aren't we, TK?
Yes,
Ken,
absolutely,
all right.
absolutely.
Here we
Can't
go.
wait.
Ken Humphrey is the author of 9 novels in the genres of middle grade, teen reader, and adult thriller. His most recent release, The Breakfast Jury, spawned from a Kenosha, Wisconsin murder trial. He served as jury foreman for a man accused of murdering his wife with antifreeze. The result of this experience was a murder mystery that's part Breakfast Club and part John Grisham thriller. Ken is also the director of operations for Wisconsin Writers Association after retiring from a corporate technology career in 2023. He also spends an unjustifiable amount of time keeping his collection of German vehicles in working condition, which, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, you know about.
So, the book synopsis. In 1999, a jury of misfits is thrust into the case of the century. A man stands accused of poisoning his wife with antifreeze, and they are charged to deliver judgment. During the longest trial in Wisconsin state history, they unwittingly form bonds stronger than anyone could have predicted and come to realize their differences are not so great after all. 1 year later, a reunion turns deadly when they fall victim to poison. Is this targeted retribution for their verdict or simply forewarning of something darker to come? Enter disgraced Detective Aramis Archwhite and his penchant for finding trouble. As he digs into the shadows, skepticism plays a third wheel, blurring the line between duty and vendetta. Can he unmask the puppeteer orchestrating this twisted tango? The clock is ticking, and as time winds down, he finds that vengeance possesses a wicked sense of irony.
Excellent. I have read that book and I highly recommend it. It's an
Yes,
excellent
indeed.
read. Ken, welcome to your very own Midwest Writers Room podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Feeling a little weird, like a fish out of water on the other side of the desk here, but happy to get into this.
Yeah, I bet it is a little bit unusual to have you be the interviewee. So, I guess to start us off, do you want to share a little bit about the murder trial itself that inspired this novel? Give us a little overview of it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it has formed the foundation of the book. And so, in the real world, right, in Kenosha, in 1998, a man poisoned his wife using antifreeze.
Mm.
Actually, ended up suffocating her as well, because apparently the antifreeze did not work quickly enough for him. So he was brought up. He was found guilty in 2008 in a trial in 2008, and that at that time that was the longest trial in Wisconsin history. 7 weeks, I think, is what it took. Well, come 2022 or so, his verdict was vacated by a federal judge because a piece of evidence was used in that trial that the federal judge determined should not have been used, and so they vacated the verdict. And the prosecution, the state prosecutors, brought him back around for a trial. And that was a trial which I was involved in. So, I mean, it really was the sequel. They did the same thing over again. They brought back the same prosecutor, even though he was now gone from his district attorney role and working somewhere else in the state. He came back to serve as special prosecutor on this because he wanted to make sure that the accused did not escape, did not get out of jail on this. He wanted to make sure that he did his best to prosecute him again. So that's where I came in January of 2023.
Wow. So, and you had, I guess, talk to me a little bit about, what inspired the book, and, what inspired, I mean, I understand that the trial did, but you made a choice specifically to make it fiction, right? And, talk a little bit about what those thought processes were like.
Yeah, so partway through this, we lasted a month, this trial. So it wasn't the 7 weeks of the first one, but ours took a month. And during the course of it, you get to know people and you start chatting about what everybody does for jobs. And when they found out I was an author, they're like, "Oh, you should write a book about this trial." And I thought about it. And first off, I wasn't real keen on the idea. I'm like, well, I don't really do nonfiction. That's not my style. I've never written a nonfiction book. I said, plus, every time you have a high profile trial, books pop out about it. And frankly, I don't find them very compelling. I mean, court itself, a jury that lasts a month is not that interesting. Trust me, regardless of how salacious the stuff is, it is very monotonous, very repetitive. You show up, you listen, you go home, right? But partway through, I realized, wait a minute, I could turn this into a fiction, into a novel, a murder mystery. And that really came from watching the interplay amongst all the jurors, all of us in the room, right? There's 16 of us. You start with 16 and 4 people get weeded out before the final verdict. So 16 of us spent a month there getting to know them. And I really started seeing a ton of parallels between the way we interacted and what happened in that movie, The Breakfast Club, right? 5 strangers showed up to detention on a Saturday morning, all different walks of life. They never would have been together otherwise. And by the end of the day, they realized, wow, we were not so different after all. This was the same thing. It just happened to be spread across 16 people in 4 weeks. So I thought, okay, that right there, that's the core theme of the book. We're going to set it against a trial, but we're going to have it really be about the jury and what this whole experience did to them. And then you have the murder mystery part that gets layered on top.
Well, so you blended both trials together. You did a character study first. You sat back and like writers do, right? We study characters. And then you connected dots and you blended both trials together and set the novel in 2000, right?
Correct. Yep,
Right.
that is
And so
correct.
that was your connection to the Breakfast Club. That's what brought that
Well,
in there.
there's a couple of reasons that I didn't just do it on our iteration of the trial. Number one was the background of the solving the whole murder. I didn't want it to have it set in 2023, 2024 or so. I needed an absence of technology to make the reveal, a little different. So there's that. I didn't want as much cameras and texting and all that stuff floating around because that kind of changed the dynamic of it. The other thing too is I had a previous trilogy that I'd written called The Killing Arc. And in the second 2 books of that trilogy, I had a main character named Aramis Archibald White, Arch White. And at the end of the trilogy, the conclusion of the 3rd book, I kind of left his story hanging, right? As a matter of fact, my wife yelled at me for the way I left it hanging. And I thought, and I liked the character. I'm like, I still want something to do with him. And that trilogy was set in 1999. So I'm like, all right, this is a great way to kind of combine both trials and kind of keep the timeline narrative, along the same lines. The murder happened in 1998. So 2 years later, it's going to trial and kind of solves for that technology issue that I wanted to avoid. And so that's why it ended up being in 2000, because that was his timeline. And it kind of closes out his story.
Well, you have a tech background, but you have the heart of a writer as you describe this, Ken, for sure. So what was it like writing about people you only knew for a month? Were they okay with the book, and are you still in touch with them?
So in reverse order, yes, I'm still in touch. We still have a group chat. It just pops up every now and then. Somebody has an event going on, somebody, anniversary or not, holiday greetings, but we're still in touch. I come across some of them more than others because they do live locally to me. And when I announced that I was going to write the book, and this was on, I think, the last day of the trial, the day we delivered our verdict, I said, you guys, we're going to get together in 1 year to celebrate this verdict. And on that date, I'm going to have a book for all of you based on this, right? I hadn't really told anybody I was going to do that because I spent the last week or so of the trial kind of mulling it over in my mind. Once I had the initial idea, mulling it over is, okay, what's the book going to look like? What's it going to be? Kind of developing the bones of the plot. And so I didn't have a lot of details. I just promised them that I would have a book for them in 1 year. And for any authors that knows about writing, 1 year is not a very excessive amount of time. That's literally about 10 months worth of writing to give yourself some cushion to get it published. And so when I was starting to write it, I said, you guys, I'm going to use your first names. I'm going to mask everybody's last name. I did that all the way through. Everybody's last name gets masked or changed. And I said, but I'm trying to stay true to your character, your personality, such as I know them. And I did have to contact one of them Nicole on the jury, and I said, Nicole, I'm sorry, but I got to do you dirty in the book. I need to sacrifice you. I don't want to let any spoilers out, but I did have to have a conversation to let her know that, yeah, sorry, Nicole, I have to kill you in the book. My bad.
Oops.
And she was fine with that.
I mean, I think it's interesting. This is not the first time I've heard you say that you give yourself ridiculous deadlines whenever you write. I just wanted to mention that.
As a matter of fact, I happen to be in a ridiculous deadline at this moment on a book I started in probably September that I need
Oh,
to
I
have
didn't know
done.
that. This is the
Yep.
first I've heard of this, I think.
Breaking news.
Yeah, it's one of the
Yeah.
Chapter
books.
break.
It's one of the books I do for my kids when they graduate high school. So these
Oh,
are more like
okay.
family
Sure,
and
sure.
friends books, but it's still writing a book, and I've got about, I don't know, 8-10 months to do it, and so I'm in the middle of that right now. So yeah, I don't learn from mistakes, Luella. You know that.
Excellent. All right, guys, we got ourselves a chapter break episode, so that means Ken is going to read a short excerpt from his book. Whenever you're ready, Ken, let us know where you're starting from so we have orientation.
All right. So to set the context, I'm actually reading a part of the book that I really like because it's kind of this more of an emotional interlude in the book. Like it's kind of a pause between all the action. And the setup is that, the lead character Arch has given his detective friend a plate to run, and he's got some dead time. And so we're catching him kind of in between the action in this dead time. But I like it because, again, it's got a bit of an emotional heartbeat. And for people in and around Kenosha, they may recognize the location that we're referring to here. Eventually, I wind up at a place called Big Star. It's a throwback to an older era where you remain in your car and roll down the window for service. A waitress notes my arrival and walks over. I'm disappointed she's not on roller skates. The menu is displayed on a large board outside, and I scan it while she stands silently beside my door. The menu is mostly variations on hamburger, fries, and soda theme. Looks like I'm having a cheeseburger, fries, and root beer. After she leaves, I notice the car next to mine is a family with two little girls in the back seat. Twins, maybe 8 or 9, laughing at their own private game. I avoid eye contact with them or the parents. Reminders are everywhere, it seems. My phone rings, and I snap it open without looking. Warren, what do you have? Reminders come in many forms. Arch, it's me. The voice is soft and undeniably female, so not Warren, not even close. I shift mental gears, quickly and without care for the damage caused by doing so. These types of calls are not my strong suit. Sheila? In that name are many things, wound tight and packed into a storage corner with no declared expiration date. Memories and emotions make up most of the bundle. Frozen snapshots I can't ever unsee, a life I can't outrun. Sheila rushes in, threatening the sanctity of my bundle. She has an ability to speak clearly and quickly, denying me the chance to interrupt. Look, I know you've been avoiding me, and I understand why, but we can't keep on like this. So much has happened in the last year. I get it's not always fair, but what's going on now isn't fair either, to both of us. The memories of our daughter are all we have left, and if we don't remember together, they will fade. Is that what you want? To forget Anna and everything she meant? Because I can't bear to think of that happening, nor can I stand watching you let your pain eat you from the inside out. Will you at least talk to me? She pauses, expecting an answer, but I'm not strong enough to bridge the silence. I need a beat. Arch, please. I dip my head, as if the response was to be found on the floorboard of my car, nestled neatly between my feet. It's shadowed down there, details hard to see, a metaphor for my thoughts and words. When you don't know what to think, how can you know what to say? Worse, when you don't want to think, what words are used to fill that void? Nothing changes the past, and the future is black, devoid of anything glimmering bright on the horizon. What's the purpose of it all? What's my purpose? I try to lid my emotions, but the response still comes out bitterly tinged. You're damn right it's not fair, Sheila. There's nothing fucking fair about any of this. Anna survived every odd all those doctors gave her. She survived us dragging her across the country from one group to another. She survived being kidnapped by those supremacist ghouls. Things that would make a normal 6-year-old kid crumble, she survived. And then, my voice cracks, louder than necessary from restraining the rawness scraping my throat. And then, after all that, to lose her to something stupid as pneumonia? How am I supposed to be okay? The twins stop their laughter, looking over at me through the open window. So does the mother. I put my hand on my forehead, shielding my eyes. No one gets to see me this way. Their window slowly rolls up. None of this phases the mother of my child, our child, because the words are not new, the emotions well worn. All our conversations over the last several months have sounded this way. You said it yourself. She beat the odds, but they kept coming and she couldn't keep up. She outlived her medical projections, Arch. She's gone, but can't you be grateful we had 6 years of her blessing our lives? Sheila's not wrong. Born into a body that refused to function on its own, Anna never learned to speak, never smiled with joy or cried from pain. Machines supplanted her organs, keeping her alive in a state doctors explained with fancy words, but never the words we needed to hear the most. She does not have the cognition to recognize the external world. Her impairments are too severe. Our facilities can assist with daily needs, but not much else. It's likely she doesn't understand your presence. You may want to think about end-of-life care. But I know what I know. When I spoke her name, whispered it into her ear because the machines made too much noise, she moved. A gurgle, a slight squirm, some minute shift of her head. Anna knew Dad was there. She always did. Doctors can go fuck themselves. I feel the anger surging once again, railing on a universe that cares little for one man and his personal loss. There's nowhere I can go. There's nowhere I can go to fight back against what happened. No one to blame. No justice to be had. As if Sheila senses my dark thoughts, and she probably does, the woman knows me well. She pushes on, desperate to keep me clinging. Like, if she stops, I'll simply slip away to endless night, never be seen or heard again. It's not dishonoring in memory if we grieve and also look to the future. The two things are not the same. It's all we can control. Don't let your wound fester until it affects everything. That would be a true dishonor to Anna. Can we meet and talk? Just be together like we once were? My phone beeps and I see Warren's name displayed on the screen. Sorry, Sheila, I have to go. I hang up before a protest is fully formed. Sometimes running away is an explosive sprint, a sudden leap from emotional danger. It can be easier to let that reaction dictate the response. He's got a hit on the plate.
That was really great. I really genuinely, when I think about your book, I kind of forgot about Arch's actual life. You know what I mean? Because there is a lot of action and it is a murder mystery. And I love the fact that you shared that part because that is actually really great. I forgot that he had such a complex past.
Yeah, and I probably should have warned everybody in advance. There are a couple of F-bombs in this, as everybody's clearly heard. So sorry about that.
Well, what are
Yeah,
you going to do? It's Arch did it, not you.
yeah, right. I'm just a
Right,
messenger.
exactly. Yeah, it's very moving. You really do a wonderful job we assume action characters are going forward and solving and being strong. And here you show this vulnerable side of him and it's quite moving what he went through and how his
I
emotions.
I think someday I can write a romantic book. It might be a romantic comedy because that's just the way I am, or it might be a romantic action series. But I think I've got it in me. That was my test run.
Romance
I
is the
offer to be a
hot
beta reader.
trend. You should.
Ooh, what's a hot trend, TK? Say that again.
Romance.
Yeah,
Romance,
yeah.
the hot trend.
Yeah, I'm officially in line to be a beta reader for that. So
Duly
Ken,
noted.
yeah, good. Tell us where readers can find your book.
Probably the easiest way to connect with me is through my website, kenhumphrey.com. Simple as it gets. We'll throw that in the show notes, as I like to say when I'm actually doing the hosting and not a victim to your questions here.
And how about any appearances or book sightings you got coming up?
Yeah, I do have some on the schedule here. So on February 8th, I'm going to be at Blue House Books in Kenosha. And I'm interested in that one because more than just a general meet the author, I'm actually bringing a couple of the jurors that I'm still closely in touch with to come along. Because whenever I've done presentations on this book or done author appearances, there's always a lot of interest in the trial itself. And so, instead of just hearing from me, I'm like, maybe I'll bring a couple of jurors and let people in the audience actually question them about their experience in the trial. I think it just kind of rounds out the event as a whole. And then after that, I'll be at the McQuantico Book Festival on May 17th. And then I'm looking to try and book something in Lake Geneva on August 22 at the Lakeside Literary Festival. We'll see if that comes through. Those are three that right now are kind of in play.
And that
you also
February
have
8th. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, TK. I'm sorry.
You also have a shout out on the Valerie Beal podcast, Reading, Writing, and Roaming. Definitely you're mentioned on that podcast that just came out today. So
yes,
thank you.
Thank you
Yay.
for that.
I was going to say too, at Blue House Books on February 8th, I'm coming down there to cheer on Ken. And so if any listeners are hearing us and you're nearby, come and say hi. We're always excited to meet more writers. And so come say hi to us.
Yes, I know there's a few WWA members in and around the Kenosha area, so stop on by.
So we truly appreciate Ken taking time to introduce our listeners to the Breakfast Jury. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I am TK Sheffield.
And I'm Luella Schmidt, sending very big thank yous to TK Sheffield for standing in for Ken, and big thanks for Ken, and congratulations on this book. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Ramir C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.